And this movie is a boundary. The father exiles his disobedient son to a special boarding school, the torture center of the Home Army, where they teach him to control his aggression. I keep quiet, I don't speak, I obey the orders. I keep quiet, I don't speak, I obey the orders. The film, based on real events, begins with the teenage main character Fran conversing with his best friend and girlfriend on video chat. He's drinking in front of the computer, beer, and smoking. Suddenly, his father Luis comes into the room. He has to get up early, and the loud noise is preventing him from sleeping. The teenager rudely snaps at him to leave, but the father does not go. He attempts to engage his son in conversation, while his friends patiently wait. In the morning, the unrested and irritated Luis goes to work to manage the store. Meanwhile, the negligent son is having fun, forgetting about school. He smokes with friends, listens to music, drinks, and flirts with a girl. Later, the father is informed that Fran dropped out of school long ago, and then there's a call from the hospital asking him to retrieve his troublemaker son, who got involved in a fight. The man rushes to the ER where Migu's parents, Fran's friends, are already waiting. He suggests that Fran is a bad influence on their little one. Luis takes his son after the examination is over, trying to talk to him on their way home, but in the underground parking, the teen explodes and wants to leave. The man catches up with his son, but the teenager yells at him and slaps him, then runs away. In the evening, when Luis gets home, his son is not there. He's gone to a disco to party with friends, dance, drink, and inhale illegal substances. The father is alone lighting candles on the birthday cake. His son has turned 17. Stressed that he can't find common ground with his son, Luis looks for ways to communicate with teenagers on the internet. He finds an ad for the Simca program, a special psychological correction program for aggressive behavior. Parents of troubled teenagers share their experiences of how difficult it was to communicate with their children before and how much easier it became afterward. As Luis watches the videos, he doesn't realize how time flies and it's already night. Fran wanders unstably down the corridor. The boy pauses at his father's half-open bedroom door, but he turns off the light to avoid another unpleasant conversation. The next day, Luis goes to Simc's presentation. A powerful coach gives an inspiring speech about how discipline can instill real values and a sense of purpose in spoiled children for successful business. While he listens to the performance, his son is on the phone, drinking alcohol. Under his mother's incitement, Migu renounces his friend and the girl hints that there was nothing serious between them. There wasn't, so it's not wise to make far-reaching plans. Frustrated, Fran continues to drown his sorrows, and that's how his father finds him in the evening. At night, two specially trained men drag a half-naked teenager from his bedroom. He resists, kicks, yells, and calls for his father, but Luis has already packed a bag with his belongings and is escorting his son to the boarding school at the door. The guy is thrown into a minivan and driven along a picturesque serpentine road away from the city. There he is met by Father Oscar, the main of the tutors. The man is not happy that he is new. Half naked, pupils must observe discipline and act dressed. He also doesn't like handcuffs on a teenager. Oscar orders them to be removed. Fran takes this gesture as friendly and calls the guard names. But the educator immediately restores the social hierarchy. He twists the arm of an impudent child, pokes his muzzle into the wall, reads out the basic rules, among which respectful silence in the presence of the elders is mandatory. The right to speak is a privilege. Fran is sheared, given a uniform, and taken to the rest of the group. Children with bloody marks on their chins watch the daily video. They greet the newcomer with a rehearsed chant. When Fran tries to talk to a neighbor, Father Oscar presses pause, and the children jump up from their seats, reciting the rules of silence. Dissuaded by the coherency, the hero looks around, realizing he won't be hassled here. Further routines includes strictly regulated useful work for the society, such as collecting clothes pegs and group lunches in the dining room. Fran monitors them. They watch clips on TV where psychologists instill principles of acceptable behavior. Nando's father also stands out among the carriers. Oscar chastises him about his outward presentation and chewing gum, for he's setting a bad example to the children. The teenagers also converse with a psychologist, who not only inquires about their hidden fears, but also about their relationships with their parents. Fran admits he misses his father, but he is saddened that Luis has never truly shown fatherly affection, even towards his mother who left the family when he was a child. The teaching staff of the boarding school, led by Oscar, discusses upcoming Freedom Day. This festival for the children is meant to display what their life can be like beyond the boundaries of the institution. Nando, being new, does not know what it is, and his peers slightly mock him, for which he responds with a pathetic speech. Later, during lunch, Nando vents his anger on one of the children, knocking his face on the table as the rest of the children quickly eat, pretending nothing is happening. During the educational process, Nanda takes pleasure in spraying the child's eyes with pepper spray. The boarding school director dislikes this. Wealthy parents do not pay money for their children to be harmed. Oscar manages to cover up the case, escaping with a slight reprimand to his subordinate and taking a hit to the face on the table. Soon, Fran is successful in learning the rules, but he is still unfamiliar with the punishments, and one night after lights out, he sneaks out of the room. Unnoticed by the guards, he descends a floor where he finds a sensory deprivation wing, complete or partial. Isolation from the outside world is enforced here. Even simple conversations are barred. In one of the rooms, he spots a teenager tied to a gurney, his eyes and ears covered, leaving him alone with his thoughts. Fran removes his mask and headphones, and the unfortunate lad screams for mercy killing. Scared by the reaction, Fran retreats, but the guards notice his flight from the dorm. The alarm is sounded and the chase for him begins. The hero hides in a corner as a guard enters, rushes at him, and beats him into a bloody pulp until a backup subdued him. For this offense, Father Oscar sentences the entire group to punishment. The children are laid face down on the floor, their chins resting on the ground. As they lie motionless, the guards sporadically turn on bright lights and loud music. The situation is reminiscent of a Pokemon episode that caused epileptic seizures. After serving her sentence, Fran receives her bloody mark on her chin. At the same time, the parents of the children gather for their own rehabilitation program, led by psychologist Helena. Luis says he can't get along with his son, to which the doctor replies. That dialogue involves both parties, so not only must children learn obedience, but parents also have a responsibility to participate in their lives. Helena cites Sandra and parents as a successful example. The girl completed the program. The adults recount how their lives have changed since their daughter's return. But the story ends with the girl peeing herself and her mother taking her away. Upon returning home, Luis, as the psychologist advised, enters his son's room. On his computer, he watches a music video of his son fooling around with his friends. Among the frames, Luis himself, the offspring, secretly filmed him at work. The video makes his father smile as follows. In the morning, he goes to the boarding school to pick up his son, but Oscar shows him a video of the beating and convinces him that Fran is not yet ready to adapt to society. When watching the next video, the young man makes a joke that the teachers hear. Group is being led to another punishment for the fact that they do not delve into the theses repeated over and over again. They will have to spend more than a day on their feet with their hands tied and blindfolded. Or the one who can hold it. The test will take the longest to pass, the rest will be sent to a sensory isolation room. Those who squat down are taken out by the guards. At the same time, parents undergo another training for mutual understanding. Luis gets to know Sandra's parents better. They're worried about their daughter's mental health, but hope the training will help. The next day, the remaining teenagers are fed, but there's one less portion than the prisoners. Unable to agree, the children curse, and the guards take all the food from them. Close to night, when the second day began, the cage arrives. The woman takes a video of the children to collect evidence of the cruelty. She's caught by Nanda and taken to Oscar, but the manager sees nothing wrong with the data leak. All these methods are legal. On the third day, Fran's the last person left on their feet, returning to a regular scheduled life. Meanwhile, Luis develops a warm relationship with Sandra's mother. They lunch together, their acquaintance growing into a romantic interest. But while she's kissing Luis in the car park, her daughter is watching the posted video torture. Unable to bear the memories of her experiences, the girl jumps off the roof right in front of her work-burdened father. The director scolds Oscar for the information leak, which leads to harsher rules and regime in the boarding school. Pupils are literally driven by physical exercises, with some throwing up right in the gym. He also continues to enforce corporal punishment with the implicit consent of the rest of the staff. All this culminates in Fran staging a rebellion, literally freezing in place and refusing to leave the table. Oscar orders to drag him into a sensory deprivation room where he is tied up and his eyes and ears are covered. After a while, deprived of any external stimuli, the brain starts to generate hallucinations, evoking images from the past. The torment ends when the day of freedom arrives. Male and female groups gather in the gym to dance the waltz. An exhausted Fran is brought in as well, but he does not participate. He watches from the sidelines, sitting in a chair, off, waltz at command. But here's one of the guys giving a tough look to the one who dares to stand up. Fran's rebellion is stumbling. Others follow his example. Despite the shouts and hits from Oscar's father, the event ends up in chaos to the delight of Fran's smirk. Nanda even had to hold back the boss before he hurt someone in his rage. Luis acknowledges that she wants to take her son out of the boarding school, and the woman agrees that it's the right decision after what they did to her daughter's psyche there. Next day, the man arrives at the boarding school. They bring Fran out immediately, not even trying to talk his father out of it. The teenager gets into the car in silence, without even saying goodbye to Luis. The way home, he stares out of the window. At home, he meets with his girlfriend, asking how she is doing. He does not talk about his adventures in the boarding school. He only regrets that there are still many children left in the torture chambers there. Fran does not want to talk to his father, however. He has also stopped being rude. The guy gets rid of memorabilia from his room, thus severing the connection with his past self. He does not accept gifts from his father, and in his free time he yells, leaning out of the window into the rainy emptiness of the big city. But one day, while standing in the kitchen, reflexively, he repeats the chants from the boarding school. which provokes a dialogue. Son accuses his father of deliberately giving him over to sadists for torture. Luis protests that he was deceived. Then he reads a monologue, admitting to his son that it is not easy for him to raise him alone, after their mother abandoned them, deeming them both unnecessary. And it's hard for a man to admit it, and the son only aggravates the situation by blaming his father. In the next scene, they silently drive to a house. Luis comes out to give the documents to the hosts. From the angle of view, it is not clear to whom. When he asks if it was his mother. Instead of answering, the father gets out of the car and walks away in the rain. His son catches up with him and they stand together, hugging, hiding their tears in the rain. That's all.